This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Two terrorist attacks in Russia. Over, 45 people killed? 2 days. The last attack that happened yesterday. One of the attackers was actually dressed as a policeman. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X-Zone on the Talkstar Radio Network and on the X-Zone Broadcast Network. Our toll-free worldwide number is 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com, and our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Terrorism is nothing that the world has not heard of in recent years. Up until 2001, we thought we were safe in North America, but how the tides have changed. I've asked our resident criminologist to join me this hour. Dr. William Schneid is a criminologist. He's been actively involved in the field of law enforcement for over 40 years, I should say. His assignments included Internal Affairs Narcotics Task Force, as well as patrol and investigative duties. He taught at the Rio Hondo Regional Police Academy on officer survival and ethics. He has consulted with and been assigned to various federal agencies and task forces during the past 40 years. He has been routinely appointed by Los Angeles County Superior and Municipal Court judges as an expert in alternative sentencing and narcotics. He's regarded as a professional seeker of truth and holds no bias to either the defense nor the prosecution, and he's been called upon by both sides. He is the recipient of the Law Enforcement Medal of Honor and the Medal for Valor. He is certified by the State of California Peace Officer Standards and Training Bureau through supervisory level. Dr. Schneid received his Ph.D. in 1994 with dual majors of criminology and psychology, graduating summa cum laude in his bachelor's, master's, and Ph.D. He has testified in court as an expert in narcotics, the penal system, and alternative sentencing, and is credited with over 3,500 arrests during his career in law enforcement. He has testified as an expert in excess of 300 cases. The majority of cases have been criminal in nature. He is currently the Director of Special Operations for Apex Strategic Investigations Group, a licensed international private investigations firm in Los Angeles and Riverside counties. For more information on Dr. Schneid, www.worldfind.biz. When I come back from this 2-minute commercial break here in the X-Zone, Dr. Schneid and I will be talking about terrorism, and we're also going to be talking about how the FBI cracked down on homegrown militia. All this and more on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
Take a step back in time and discover old Florida cuisine at Marsh Landing Restaurant in Fellsmere. Enjoy delicacies such as frog legs, gator tail, catfish, and swamp cabbage, or enjoy the more traditional cuisine like hand-cut Angus steaks, ribs, and seafood. Join us for breakfast with a southern flair featuring sweet potato pancakes, biscuits and gravy, and much more. Planning a party? Marsh Landing's private dining room can accommodate groups from 8 to 80 people. While you're visiting, enjoy the historic pictures, artifacts, and stories that line the walls. Marsh Landing is truly a unique experience. Marsh Landing Restaurant, 44 North Broadway in historic Fellsmere, or visit marshlandingrestaurant.com. Marsh Landing, Old Florida cuisine at its best.
Are you interested in the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, or psychic phenomenon? Join me, Tim Bartley, co-host of Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, coming mid-January 2017 to the XZBN. We will channel spirits live and talk to them, revealing all kinds of amazing information. Spiritual attachments will be found and removed on the show, and so much more. To find out when you can listen to Talking to Spirits with Lightworkers Tim and Justina, visit www.xzbn.net for listeners on both sides of the veil.
Dr. William Schneid is our very special guest. We're going to be talking about a couple of things this hour, Exonation. We're going to be talking about the 2 days of terrorist attacks in Russia, and then we're going to be talking about the crackdown by the FBI and the ATF, as well as other law enforcement agencies on homegrown militias in the United States. First of all, Bill, welcome back to the X-Zone. It's always great having you with us. 2 days of terrorist attacks in Russia. What's your comeback on that?
Well, basically, Russia has always had a problem going back to the days of the Soviet Union, where it had to, in controlling its territorial interest, Chechnya, etc. Mm-hmm. So, this is really more of an internal issue, even though there's religious overtones to it. There's been that so-called ethnic cleansing that has cost hundreds of thousands of lives, and now we have surfacing a individual who's accepted responsibility for this that indicates there's going to be more ahead, and Prime Minister Putin is indicating that we will get these people out of the gutters that they live in. So Russia's attitude towards this kind of internal terrorism is a bit different than the U.S.'s.
In an instance like this, do the international intelligence agencies work together, since that this is an international problem, or are we still in the mentality of the Cold War era, where Russia takes care of Russia, U.S. takes care of U.S.?
Well, no. I mean, it's done by what we call back channels, which is really, all intelligence agencies cooperating as a necessity. I mean, this is two world powers that it's in each other's mutual interest to, share certain intelligence. I mean, we don't obviously give everything up to the Russians, nor do they give it to us, but certainly in things that involve their internal affairs having to do with terrorism, it's in the U.S.'s interest to give them any intelligence possible. It's sort of like putting money in the bank, especially when we need their cooperation where it comes to the Middle East, and always keep in mind that Russia and China have those ultimate veto powers at the United Nations. So, we want to sort of play nice.
Now, how does the Russian intelligence community differ from the American, or do they operate on the parallel basis?
Well, in the U.S., we have many different agencies involved in intelligence gathering. The Russians are fairly limited in what resources they throw into intelligence. I mean, with us, it's a major global effort, and with budgets that don't even have to be answered to Congress. I believe on the CIA as an example, I think there's been several hundred bills attempted in Congress to hold the CIA accountable for their missions, and each one has been defeated. So we have no idea of really how much money is being spent or on what projects that the CIA may be involved. The projects I can understand, but we also have an intelligence oversight committee in Congress, which is supposed to be privy to the behavior of the intelligence agencies on behalf of the American people, basically keeping them in order. That has had its own issues with information leaked to the media, which has outed CIA operatives and basically cost lives. So it's very, very different. Certainly the Russians don't have that oversight or those levels of accountability, and so I would say that it's a very different climate when you consider communism versus a democratic society in which there's a much greater level of accountability to the citizens.
Bill, I just got an MSN message from James, who's listening to us right now in London, England, via XZoneTV.com. And his question to you is, what would be the impact to the United States if Russia actually brought Osama bin Laden to justice for these acts?
Well, the impact would be, to a lesser degree, financial, because whoever would be responsible for bringing him to so-called justice, there is an international award of $100 million U.S. dollars for that. So somebody would be the beneficiary, or some organization would be the beneficiary of that money. That being said, bin Laden would basically be turned over to the United States for prosecution. You would be giving the Russians sort of an attaboy if they wanted to take that responsibility. But really, from a diplomatic standpoint, I wouldn't think that the Russians would want to have a global public interest, especially where it comes to Islamic terrorists, because at the moment, other than this internal terrorism that they're dealing with, they don't have the kind of antichrist attitude that the zealot Muslims have against the U.S. You don't see, people blowing themselves up in Russia, and I don't think Russia wants to court Al-Qaeda and terrorism on their soil. And by bringing bin Laden and handing him over to the U.S., that would be very negatively self-serving, and I don't think they would want to invite that. If they knew where he was, it's more likely that they would discreetly share that intelligence with U.S. agencies and have us be the bad guy.
Do you think that this is just the start of terrorist activity in Russia, or do you see more and more terrorism spreading throughout Russia and into the other parts of the European Union?
Well, I think the territories that are in discussion here, Chechnya and some of the other territories, will be infected, by these acts of terrorism, because they've always wanted to basically separate themselves from Russia and to become their own union. So that's, you're looking at kind of a quasi-civil war issue, and again, based on thousands of people that have been executed. This issue of this form of terrorism goes back to Stalin's era, and so we see that as fomenting over these years. So this is very old anger that's coming to the surface now.
What can the Russian people do to prevent these kind of attacks from happening? What do they need to do? Do they need to have the scanning equipment, the sniffing equipment that certain cities within the U.S. have implemented in their subway systems? For example, an increased presence of law enforcement in the subway, sniffing dogs, detection units. Can you see this happening in Russia?
No, because the level of, if we separate police as we know it in Canada, London, and the U.S., or any other sophisticated country, we look at law enforcement as being fairly sophisticated and trained, and well trained. And you look at Russian law enforcement, forgetting intelligence, but looking strictly at their law enforcement and security personnel, and they're very ill-paid, very low on the food chain of so-called law enforcement. So poorly trained, poorly paid. I wouldn't expect them to suddenly become a force to reckon with in any great anti-terrorism campaign.
When news reaches the U.S. intelligence agencies that these attacks have taken place, what happens? What operations are kicked into gear to step up security, to step up homeland security?
Okay, we have in every embassy of the United States all around the world, we have what's called an RSO, which stands for Regional Security Officer. Now, that individual is responsible for the security of the embassy in that particular country. We have that in Canada, we have it in UK, we have every place there's an embassy. And that person usually has many contacts within that country. We usually have FBI, DEA, sometimes CIA embedded in that embassy as well under various covers. So the intelligence begins really at the embassy that's embedded in that particular country, who's obviously, because of time differences, et cetera, is going to be kind of on top of things, and they have their contacts. Then, it's sent quickly to the state desk at the U.S. Department of State, in which you have analysts that are working at stations having to do with every single country. And that segues as well into the NSA, the NRO, the CIA, Department of Defense. All of these agencies then, which are operational 24 hours a day, are getting intelligence feeds from throughout the world as to what is going on. Because ultimately the phone is going to ring at the White House and the president's going to be alerted that, something just happened in some particular country.
All right, Bill, stand by, Bill. You and I have to take our break at the bottom of the hour. Dr. William Schneid is our special guest. We're talking about the terrorist attacks that happened this week in Russia. In the next half hour, we're going to be talking about the FBI crackdown on homegrown militia within the United States. My name's Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. To find out more about Dr. Schneid, visit his website, www.worldfind.biz. We'll be back on the other side of the news. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back, everyone. It is Thursday, April the 1st. From everyone here at the X-Zone Radio Show, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, and our friends at the Talkstar Radio Network, to you and yours, a very happy and safe Easter weekend. We're taking tomorrow off to give a 3-day weekend to all our great people here, and we'll be back Monday as usual. There will be people here at the X-Zone in case any of our affiliates have any questions, or any of our guests. We do have a producer and engineer on call who will be here working throughout the weekends, as we do at all times. Dr. William Schneid is my special guest. www.worldfind.biz is his website. Bill is currently the Director of Special Operations for Apex Strategic Investigations Group, a licensed international private investigations firm in Los Angeles and Riverside counties. Some of Bill's commendations include the Law Enforcement Medal of Honor, Law Enforcement Medal of Valor, the Federal Bureau of Investigation Medal for Exceptional Service, the Department of Air Force Commendation for Exceptional Service, the Department of Defense Missile Defense Organization for Exceptional Service, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Commendation for Exceptional Service, and the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department Commendation for Exceptional Service. Bill, we were talking about the terrorist attack in Russia and how it would get down to, from the event itself to the embassy to the RSO, from the RSO to the different desks, including the State Department, CIA, Homeland Security, and ultimately to the President of the United States. Once President Obama has received this information, what has already taken effect as far as the Departments of Homeland Security and other agencies within the United States?
Well, they basically have a standard operating procedure depending on the perception of the threat and the reality of it being replicated within the United States or originating in the United States. Mm-hmm. So there's an intelligence briefing that the president has every day, breaking intelligence in which, say an embassy has been blown up, etc. We have people then that are en route to investigate it, and many times agencies from stateside are sent to supplement the investigative agents that may be embedded in the agent in our embassy in that occurrence. But normally they're not manned sufficiently, so we'll have a contingency of either the and or the security.
Police still have the roads closed.
Exonation, our special guest this hour is Dr. William Schneid, and we're talking about the terrorist attacks in Russia. Bill, short term, I should say, do you anticipate any further attacks in Russia that might trigger attacks here within the U.S.?
No, this is really an internal type problem. Mm-hmm. We've got our problems with dealing with our cuckoo militia people out here, but certainly nothing out of this Russian incident should migrate anywhere outside of Russia.
All right, so we'll keep our eyes open on Russia, but let's talk about the Christian militia that was the target of an FBI raid, and let's listen to this news clip.
The FBI that netted at least 3 people. The raids took place in Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. A federal law enforcement official says some of those arrested face gun charges, and officials continued to pursue other suspects. For neighbors in this normally desolate area, the attention came as quite a surprise.
There's just a lot of cop cars, a lot of flashing lights, state police.
It is unclear what prompted the raids, but in at least one case, the leader of a Christian militia group was targeted. A spokesman for the Southeast Michigan Volunteer Militia says members of Hatari, a Christian militia group, had their property raided by the ATF Saturday night.
I had some contact with them.
Okay, and what are they like?
They've always been very nice and polite to us.
Okay.
No troubles.
2 of the arrests happened Saturday night in towns in Ohio near the Southeast Michigan border. A 3rd arrest was made Sunday in northeast Illinois, just over the border with Indiana. Some of the suspects involved are expected to be in court Monday. Brian Thomas, The Associated Press.
I'd like to thank the Associated Press for that clip.
And it's pretty clear that bridge,
Here's another clip.
If it doesn't go, it's going to need to be replaced. All the underpinnings of that
No, that was a non-associated clip, so our producers have clipped that clip in the bud, so to speak. Bill, the Christian militia, what do we know about it?
Well, basically, this group had plans to take over 3 or 4 rural counties in southeastern Michigan and use the toehold to ambush and kill members of U.S. law enforcement. We know that it also involved the state of Kentucky. The total now that are in custody there's 8 militia, 1 outstanding. They've pled not guilty in federal court yesterday. But, this is going to be a huge case that will probably take years to unfold. But the ramifications were incredible because the FBI was able to infiltrate the group. So the agent that was undercover was able to record their planning and plotting, which was to the extent that they were going to kill law enforcement, and then during the law enforcement funeral, they were going to explode IEDs and take out, an additional mass of law enforcement that would be present for the funeral, because they believed that basically they viewed the police as their enemy because they believed that U.S. law enforcement officers were acting as agents of a new world order. And, I don't know that necessarily... We've always heard about the NWO, previously, but I don't know that that's necessarily aligned with the New World Order as opposed to an expression. I think that this just proves to us that we have these splinter groups of extremists that are inside this country that present a real issue here. I think the fact that they had confiscated 50 firearms and thousands of rounds of ammunition, is sufficient to be able to see the ultimate capabilities that they had to wreak havoc. So I think that we have a number of issues here. You have the terrorism from outside of the country, as in Al-Qaeda. Then you have internal terrorists that have some misguided conception of what our government is. And there's enough, we're certainly not short of lunatics and sociopaths out here that are drawn to these groups. I saw on YouTube one of their recruiting videos, and it's literally laughable, but it still attracts a certain element of people that are what we would consider politely fringe mental cases that see these groups as a means to an end. Remember, previous to this isn't unknown to us. We had the Ku Klux Klan, which is still active. We have a number of groups that through the years, have been active. The Ku Klux Klan is smart enough to stay under the radar at the moment because they don't want this kind of publicity. They don't want people hauled away. So, the Klan is still in existence, but you just don't hear about them. So, but a group like this, presents a much greater degree of potential violence if left unchecked. So we've got to worry about the intelligence going on with inside our country as well as outside.
How many groups are there, or potentially are there, like the Christian militia presently operating throughout the U.S.?
Well, there's a calculated guess of about 150, of varying sizes. I mean, it could be one of 3 or one of 100. But usually these are small groups of, 10, 15 people. Rarely are these, some mass group of people.
What does it tell you as a member of law enforcement that these groups are now considering to use IEDs and directly go after law enforcement?
Well, it just says that the level of violence inside this country has dramatically escalated, certainly over my career. I remember 4 decades ago, nobody knew of a SWAT team. Nobody knew of bulletproof vests, automatic weapons. I mean, it was unheard of. I mean, you carried a .38, and that was it. So now, if you look at the police level of armament and SWAT vehicles and tanks, etc., you can easily see that we're geared up to a much more violent internal population than we were 40 years ago. I think you remember the big shootout in North Hollywood, California at the Bank of America, where Los Angeles Police Department was outgunned by a couple of bank robbers that had full armor on and automatic weapons.
Well, it's always been the case where the bad guys have the better armament than the police do.
Well, yes, but we've never. I think one of the big changes, certainly, that affected, say, LAPD, was that they never had to encounter this kind of thing. I mean, the idea of 2 bank robbers going to war with a department the size of Los Angeles Police Department at high noon, it's just incomprehensible. But they literally, LAPD had to go to a local gun store to get higher caliber weapons to deal with these people. Now, obviously, LAPD has changed its armament policy since then, but, and other departments have viewed the LAPD scenario and have geared up accordingly. So, I mean, you have a very different state of mind than, say, if you go to Russia or you go to Germany, or you go to any one of a number of European countries. You see either police or soldiers roaming around the streets, with automatic weapons. You don't see that in Canada. You don't see that in the United States. You don't have people walking around with automatic weapons.
Not yet.
Not yet. No, I agree with you, and prayerfully that time doesn't happen. But it may well happen. But I know the feeling when I've gone to Europe and I see that. It's a very disquieting kind of feeling when you see, basically soldiers, on street corners walking around. I mean, Israel, certainly you would expect that. But, Europe, it's just a very spooky kind of feeling. And for the longest time, remember the UK, the police there never even carried weapons.
That's right. With what has happened with the militia and what is happening to the countless number of militias that are still in effect and that are still under the radar of law enforcement, isn't it time for gun control?
Well, gun control is sort of an oxymoron. I mean, at this point, one has to presume that if you enacted gun control tomorrow, I mean, everybody who has weapons already has them. So what you're basically doing is saying, okay, from this point forward, or, well, first of all, no law is going to go into effect immediately.
Right.
So, I mean, we had that with certain automatic weapons when we had the automatic weapon ban and against AK-47s and so forth. So you were given until January 1st when the law went into effect a couple of years ago. So obviously everybody raced to their gun store and bought stuff because they knew they had 6 months to do it before the law went into effect. So that was sort of ridiculous. So everybody got extensive magazines that were way beyond the law's 16 16 bullet capacity, and picked up all that stuff. So, as I said, those that want it have it. Those that are going to be law-abiding citizens, it's a non-issue. So, I mean, gun control at this point in this country, I think is a pointless thing that could never be enforced.
Bill, stand by. We've got to take our final break. Dr. William Schneid is our special guest. www.worldfind.biz. We'll be back on the other side of this break. Don't go away.
19 Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant check. Officers on the scene.
Hi, I'm Larry Lawson, host of Paranormal Stakeout. With over 36 years in law enforcement, I have learned a few things. The most important is the proper gathering and preservation of evidence is vital to putting the bad guy behind bars. It's no different in the world of paranormal investigation. Whether it's the search for the afterlife, cryptozoology, UFOs, and extraterrestrials, how we gather the evidence, preserve that evidence, and present it to a jury of our peers will make the ultimate difference in proving the existence of worlds and entities that are beyond our imagination. Join me, Larry Lawson, every week on Paranormal Stakeout when, along with my guests, we'll take a journey to prove with indisputable evidence what man has struggled to believe for centuries. Go to xzbn.net for the broadcast schedule and check me out at paranormalstakeout.com.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
At its widest level is 12 miles from shore to shore, and at its smallest level or smallest location, it's 7 miles between one shore and the other. Is that correct?
I don't have the exact dimensions, but to your point, sir, I think Guam is a small island.
Very small island, and about 24 miles, if I recall, long. So 24 miles long, about 7 miles wide at the least widest place on the island, and about 12 miles wide on the widest part of the island. And I don't know how many square miles that is. Do you happen to know?
I don't have that figure with me, sir. I can certainly supply it to you if you'd like.
Yeah, my fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and...
What did he just say? He thinks that the whole island of Guam might tip over? This I've got to hear again.
Overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
That's exactly what he said. Bill, can you believe the morons that are running this country?
When I first heard that, it's sort of scary. It's like, welcome to America. I was, with no disrespect to Georgia, fortunately, he's a congressman from Georgia, and he's far enough away from California that I don't have to deal with him. But somehow these folks get elected. It never amazes me.
Let's just
never ceases to amaze me.
Hold on, I got to hear this again.
It will tip over, and
that's exactly what he said. It would tip over. Now that's Representative Hank Johnson. Is he on drugs, or is he just drunk, or is he just really that stupid? That's the question.
I have no idea what what that gentleman's thought process was. I mean, he was stammering just over the size of Guam.
Yeah.
And then to come up with that absolutely crazy concern, I have to respect the admiral that was responding, because he just had a simple smirk on his face. But how he didn't come back with surely this is April Fool's.
Yeah, in fact, one more time.
Really populated that it will tip over and capsize.
Now that, like I said, is Representative Hank Johnson. The admiral that he is asking these questions to is Admiral Bob Rat Willard. And one of our listeners sent me an MSN message that says, and people complained about George W. Bush. Really? Anybody have a breathalyzer handy? Bill, I want to thank...
George W. Bush was the president.
Yeah.
We'll say that we hope that the president has a little higher level. The post is raised a little bit for the president, but this is certainly craziness.
Hey, Bill, you and I have to say so long for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Always a great pleasure. To you and yours, a very happy Easter weekend, my friend. We'll speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Very good, and you all have a good, safe little egg hunt.
Take care, my friend. Dr. William Schneid has been our guest this hour. www.worldfind.biz. On the other side of the news, Ishmael Jones, a former CIA operative, joins us here in the X-Zone as we continue from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Guam will tip over. Oy vey!
Jesus. That's going to... Wait till they play that at re-election time.